Operating iPads are hard. Anyways, we're starting a new series called Parenting is Hard. So thankful that you're here this morning. If you have your Bibles, Luke chapter 15. Now, last week, Pastor Tyler preached for me. Didn't he do a fantastic job? Had a great chance to, he did a fantastic job. So thankful for him. And he's away this weekend as he's celebrating his anniversary with Abby. It's hard to believe they've been married 10 years. Have 3 baby boys, and so we're so excited. In fact, at Guardian night, me and Memphis were sitting in the back, and Abby walked in, and I knew that they were going to be leaving to go out of town for their anniversary. And I said, "Hey, Abby, congratulations on your anniversary, happy anniversary." And she looked at me, and she goes, "Oh yeah, that's right, 10 years." And I go, "Yeah." And Memphis goes, "Yeah." Memphis was with me. He goes, "Happy anniversary, Miss Brown." And I said, "When is it?" And she said, July 30th. And Memphis goes, "Oh, man." And she said, "What?" He goes, "I got to go to the dentist on July 30th. That's what Memphis said. And Abby goes, "It's very similar, Memphis," and just turned around and walked off. That's what she said. So anyways, I thought that was fantastic. But anyways, he was gone. I was gone, and so he's preaching. And then the week before that, I was at a wedding in Alabama with good friends of mine out of the church. And so I was unable to be here to preach on that Sunday. And Pastor Gary did a fantastic job. But this morning, we're starting a new series. This morning's going to be an introduction, but we're starting a series on parenting. And I want to tell you how I got there, because we're going to do this series for the next several weeks. And then once we get into the fall, here's where we're headed. I take my time away to kind of lay out what I want to do, kind of moving forward. What do I always say? If nothing becomes dynamic until it becomes specific. And so I don't just kind of spitball what I'm going to talk to you about. We're actually headed in a direction. And so I put all those things together. I have a whole stack of series that I've been building over the months, even the years, that I want to do. Some I've never pulled out to preach, and I still just kind of work on them, modify them, and you'll get them. But this series here is going to run for several weeks. It's going to lead us into the fall. And then we're going to do a series. I was telling PJ and Tyler this week, I'm going to do a series called The Ghost, the Pilgrim, and the Savior, going up to the end of the year. And then January, we're going to jump back into Revelation. Is that all right with everybody? And so that's where we're headed. I got to this parenting series kind of a long way around. Now listen to what I'm about to tell you. When I start talking about parenting, some people check out. This series is not just about Phillip sitting up here going, "I know everything about parenting, everybody listen to me," because I don't. And if you think I do, ask my children, they'll tell you I don't. Mandy doesn't either. We've been doing it now for 21 years, almost 22 years in September. We've been parents. So we do have some experience, but my experience is not what you need on Sunday mornings. What we're going to talk about is parenting through different phases. We're also going to talk about parenting from a divorce perspective. It's going to come up. We're going to talk about parenting adult children. If you have adult children, it changes things. We're going to talk about children having parents that are not connected. We're going to talk about how do we reconcile different issues in our family. When you talk about parenting, it literally opens it up. The umbrella opens it up to all kinds of family issues: marriage, siblings, irreconcilable differences between people. It begins to open this series up. And after I preached this the first time, I've not preached this message. After I preached this message the first time this morning, I was backstage. Even before I came out, I got some friends that were texting me, and they were already talking about how this is going to hit so many different people. Now, let me say this about parenting before I go any further. A, you're not taking your advice from Phillip the parent, right? Maybe there's some things that I've learned along the way that may help you, but I'm still learning too. But the Bible teaches us a blueprint of how to parent. And parenting and the conversation of parenting is very tricky because it's very touchy. In fact, there's some of you in here, you have your children in service with you, and I know it's hard, but don't you worry about it. You just hang with us. We're building them new digs. It's just taking us a minute. They don't bother me, so you just hang in there with them. And if they do start to bother you, we've got at the very end of the children's hallway on the left, there's a room where you can go and take your kids and they can do what they need to and you can watch online. It's right there for you this morning, but don't you worry about those kiddos. But let me tell you why parenting is a touchy subject. The reason that is because some of us in here are not doing good. I don't know that, but you know that. And when someone starts talking about parenting, it touches that place in you and it makes you angry. Because it feels like somebody's calling you on the carpet or telling you what you should be doing. And so it becomes very touchy. Some of it becomes touchy because you live with guilt from what you have done and you're trying to fix it. It becomes very touchy because you're a child or an adult who grew up absent parents, and it becomes touchy. It becomes an issue that if we're not careful, we'll close down on, and we'll just throw up a wing and a prayer and hope we do well. This morning, as we start down this path, this is not age-generated. So if you're an adult parent, don't check out on me because we're going to talk about you too. If you're a young parent, don't think this is 6 weeks of me just talking to you, because it isn't. If you're not married, don't worry. It's going to affect you too, because some way, some shape, some form, you had a parent or parents, whether they were there or not. If you're married, don't check out. If you're divorced, don't check out. We're hitting all of it. But what I'm asking you to do this morning is don't get touchy. Let's just see what the Bible says, and let's work through it. I believe with all of my heart that being a parent has the greatest ability to bring the greatest amount of joy in single moments than anything else that you'll ever do as a person. But I also believe that being a parent can lead to the greatest heartbreak that a single person could ever experience. There's some within the sound of my voice this morning. You're a parent and you have issues with your children. They're adults now, but they won't have anything to do with you. There's people within the sound of my voice, you're getting your life together and it's been a train wreck up till now, and you're facing those consequences because nobody wants to talk to you. And kids are being hard on you. There's some within the sound of my voice this morning that you've lost children. And I'm just telling you, I cannot imagine the heartache. Just the thought of losing one of my children, it messes with me. Bothers me real bad. The other day, Memphis, I couldn't get him on the phone. And I was driving home. I was going to get him lunch. I'd been in a meeting, and I was going to get him lunch, but it's like 12:30, and I couldn't get him on the phone. I kept calling. And then all of a sudden, I know he's at home by himself. He's 13 now, right? He's at home by himself. And then I thought, oh, man, what if something happened to him? You start having all kinds of crazy thoughts in your mind as a parent. Nobody warned you about that, right? And when he called me back, it was literally a relief. I knew there wasn't nothing wrong with him, but my dad instincts took over. Your mind can go 1,000 places. I cannot imagine if you've lost a child. So this morning, as we endeavor on this journey, we're going to go together, and it's going to be painful for some. It's going to be healing for some. It's going to be eye-opening for some. But understand, this morning, we're not studying Phillip's playbook. We're studying God's playbook, and so we're going to unpack this. So are y'all okay with that? Now, I want to encourage you, even if you have friends that don't go to church, invite them here on Sundays or tell them to watch online, because I believe they're going to get something out of this. I'll tell you something else that makes parenting very difficult too, is the fact that now we live in a society where everybody speaks into our life. There's so many social media stuff. I mean, you could turn it on any given time and there's a bunch of dum-dums trying to tell you what you're doing wrong and what you need to do right, and they've never parented anything but, a bird. And they're telling you how bad you are, and then you really believe that stuff. But really, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't really matter how I was raised or you were raised. What matters is what God's Word says. So let's talk about parenting is hard, and we're going to touch on all kinds of stuff. So let's move forward. Let me ask you a question this morning. Do you think parenting is hard? Don't answer that. If you said anything other than yes, you're a liar. Parenting is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. Now, let me say this to you. There's children in here. You're not parents yet. Can I just say something to you? Regardless of where you fall, thinking about your parents, cut them some slack. It's easy to be a teenager or a 20-something-year-old being hard on your parents because you have not experienced life at a certain level yet, and it's a very humbling thing. And you get to a certain point in your life, you realize your parents were just trying to make it, man. They were doing the best they could, even though they were messing up a lot. But parenting is very difficult. It's hard to be a parent because it's hard to know what to do and how to do it. It's hard to know how to say and what you should be getting your children into or what you shouldn't be. How do you discipline How do you correct behavior? How do you keep your sanity? You know, the stat is if you have a newborn, it takes you 6 years to catch up on the sleep that you lose in the first few months. Did you know that? That's a real stat. So when you see these people that come in, they got 3 and 4 year olds and they're like, I'm tired. And you're like, well, they've been around 3 or 4 years. They're still in a deficit. Some of y'all, here's what happens. About the time they get to be 3, you think, let's do that again. And so you have another one. You just set the clock back, brother. You've been behind on sleep for 13 years, right? It's hard. It's difficult. Number next. Which phase of parenting do you think is the hardest? Just getting the juices flowing. You see, when you're young and you have your children and you bring them home from the hospital, it's been a while. It's been 13 years since we brought one home from the hospital, but when we started to bring ours home from the hospital, they'd make you check the car seat and where you're putting them and all this stuff. Y'all, I don't know if anybody else went through all that. There was somebody going, yeah, you can't do that. And the nurse was like, well, this is how you do this and this is how you do all that kind of stuff. And then they just release you with this new human being and go, don't break it. You know, it's hard, right? And that's a hard phase. It's a hard phase when your baby's getting up and crying, got colic and doing all the other things where you're sleeping all day and up all night. Those are hard phases. And a lot of people kind of go through that phase and they're like, if I can just get them through the terrible twos, we'll be okay. Can I tell you something? It's no easier. I think it gets worse. You say, really? It gets worse. Because the fears and the expectations, the expenses grow. So I ask you, what is the hardest phase? I can't adequately say that except from just what I hear from other people because I haven't been through all the phases yet. My oldest will be 22. All 3 will be 22 in September. And it's quite the journey. It's different. If you're a parent of older children, you might say this is the hardest season of our life. We had a great young season. This is the hardest season. I don't know. Number next is, when does parenting end? Now you're going to say, never. It never ends. And the truth is the day they lay me in the dirt is the day I am born into heaven and I die here on this earth, I'll still be the parent of my children. They will always say, Phillip Martin is my dad. Mandy Martin is my mom. I will always be their parent. But parenting never ends, but the shape of that parenting cycle does. Meaning, I don't treat my 22-year-olds like I did when they were 3. That parenting phase ended. And I don't treat my daughter like I do my 13-year-old. Otherwise, I will end because she'll kill me. Parenting phases change. And while I'll always be a parent, and while I'll always have parents, it changes. I told the first service, my mom and dad, I love my mom and dad. My stepfather, you know him. He's around here. He's got a real shiny bald head. Can't hear a thing, but he's here every Sunday. He's here. My mother sits in the front row on Sunday mornings. My parents have now phased into this. Yes, they're my parents, and yes, I still call them mom and dad, but they are my friends now. And I love my dad in ways that I can't explain to you. I love to put him in the car and take him duck hunting because now I have to watch over him. He'll shoot the top out of our blind. He'll drop his gun in the mud. He's tripped and fallen down. All the things I used to do, now he's doing it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, right? But they've become my friends. This thing we call parenting has phases to it. And some of you are in the phase where you're the adult, the older parents of older adults, and it's killing you. They may be ignoring you. They don't listen to you. They're disrespectful. You never see them. But we ask, when does the parenting phase end? Parenting is hard. So let's go for it. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to do this? It's going to be fun. It's going to open up some issues for some folks. And we're going to have to walk through them, but that's what we're committed to doing. And this morning is just the introduction. I want to start by sharing, and this is our platform text as we come out of here, is a little parable in Luke chapter 15 about a father and his 2 sons. Now, you know this story. You've seen this story. And the deal is a lot of times when this story is preached, it is preached from a standpoint of just salvation. You know this story as the story of the prodigal son. The story begins in Luke 15. I'm going to read it to you in just a moment. But you're going to see a son go away and you're going to see a son come back. And Jesus uses it to explain the love of a father to a child like a savior to a lost individual. It's the prodigal son. And a lot of people, a lot of old timers, and even you and myself sometimes will talk about us being the prodigal son at different times in our life. People write books about the prodigal son. They talk about the living in a pig pen, all the different things. But there's something inside of this series, this moment, this parable, this story, that a lot of times we overlook. Listen, when Jesus Christ tells a story and he inserts a father and two sons raised by the same man, one's older, one's younger. One of the things that he does in this sermon that oftentimes and in this story that we extrapolate salvation out of is he shows us the human conditions. He shows us our tendencies. And he shows us great things about a parent. He shows us about what a human being will do if left unattended. And he shows us things about jealousy and nature of our life. In fact, I would argue Luke 15 is one of the greatest pictures of messy family that we closely relate to than any other piece of scripture. There's others, but this one is a really messy story. And this morning, I want to take you on a journey, not about the salvation portion, you know that part, but I want to show you what Jesus teaches us, about parenting as we walk through here. I'm not going to stay here forever because it's the introduction. After I get through this, I want to show you some statistics on parenting. Then I want to tell you why parenting is hard based on what we're learning. And then I want to talk about some things that we should not do in parenting and leave it open-ended till we come back next week and show you what all we're going to go through. I think you're really going to enjoy this series. Luke 15 says this in verse 11 through 13. And he said, a man had two sons. There he is. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me. Now, I've seen a lot of guys preach on this, and I've heard a lot of people preach on this, and a lot of times we talk about this particular statement by the younger son, not the older son, but the younger son. And a lot of times people say this about this particular statement from the younger son, is that it's like the son saying to the father, I wish you were dead. And while that may be sort of true because we connect that to the fact that he's wanting his inheritance that he would only get when the father died, I don't believe that's really what he's saying. In fact, in this particular text, what you're going to find out is several things about family dynamics. Namely, Jesus uses this parable and he talks about the father. The first thing that I want you to hear when I'm talking about this and kind of setting this thing up is obviously the mother's around. She's not mentioned in this particular story, but she's there. And this father and mother, they have two children, an older son and a younger son. And what you're going to begin to see is that there's something fantastic that this father has done. In fact, this first statement that the young son makes tells you a lot about the father. The first thing that it tells you about the father is the father has done really well for himself. The father has done really well for himself. He's created an estate. He has created a working farm, if you will, where he has satisfied the needs of his children, has satisfied the needs of his family, and his boys have grown up. You can imagine they were growing up as little dudes and running around and riding the camels and picking the beans and doing all the things that you do on a farm. I didn't grow up on a farm. I got friends that own a farm, and I watched their kids run around, and it looks like the most freeing thing as a child. And these two boys grow up on the farm, and they're doing what farm boys do, and dad is successful. And the young son comes to his dad, and he says, I want half of what is due me. I'm ready to go. Now, I want to say something to you, and you're not going to like this, and it may be a little bit controversial, but you know what? So what? Somebody got to start telling the truth a little bit around this joint, or all of our heads are going to pop off. Sometimes, hear me, Mom and Dad, and you write this down. You don't have to agree with me, and you can go do it on your own. Figure it out. Sometimes one of the most injustices that we do to our children, and sometimes one of the misconceptions of our children because of the way that we raise them is our children see how successful we are. We provide for them every time they turn around. We're going to see it right now, and I'm not saying you change it. I'm just telling you there has to be a side conversation going on. We run around and we buy new school supplies and we get ready to go back to school. When you turn 16, we're going to work on getting you a car. They see the house and the garage and all the things, the swimming pool, the boats, the multiple vacations a year. And our children have this misconception that once they graduate or turn 20 or turn 25, that they're immediately going to become adults and slide right into the shoes and the success of a 40 or a 45-year-old. And unfortunately, our children didn't get to see the struggles that we had. My children are not old enough to remember, and they weren't old enough at the time to have the memory of when me and their mother struggled and people brought food to our house. They only know their father as a man who can Venmo money. They don't realize there were moments where we came together, and me and Mandy, we couldn't pay our phone bill. The first time U.S. Cellular sent me a phone bill on a phone that had an antenna, I about stroked. I told Mandy we're never calling anybody again. Cut the phone. We're not doing it. But they weren't there. They just hit text messages and send because their bill is auto-draft out of Dad's pocket. They weren't there when you go in and you have 3 of them at one time and Children's Hospital says, how much can you pay? And you have to say which one you want to keep. They weren't there for that. They just grew up. But now that they've been growing and seeing and they have the future on their mind, they think that they can step right out of cap and gown and into success of a middle-aged man. And listen to me, we've set our children up for failure. It's no longer acceptable to be able to just go rent a place. The boys asked me, said, Dad, when you and Mom first got married, how big was the house that you lived in? I said, 900 square foot. Mandy said, no, it was 1,000. I said, no, honey, it was 900. And that counted the overhang where I parked my car. You made 3 left turns when you come in and you were back on the front porch. Our washer and dryer set in the kitchen. You could do a load of underwear and make a bowl of ramen noodle at the same time. We were living the high life. Now their bedrooms are 900 square feet. You understand what I'm talking about? That step back is not calculated in most of our children. They are taught success, they see success, but they don't know how to build success on their own. And this young man is walking square dab into it. But he's got a father that's good and he's loved him. And one of the things that happens is this. The father, we see his nature. It says, so he divided his wealth between them. Everybody says, well, the young man got his wealth. Well, the older brother did too. This father's a good man. You don't see him argue, fuss, fight, do anything to the younger son. He goes, okay, let's go see the accountant. He takes both of his boys. The older son goes, I'm just going to go work, Dad. He goes, I understand that. We'll work, but you're going with me and your brother. Why am I going? Because I'm going to give you what's yours too. I don't want it, Dad. We're good. I'm just going to be here. We're good. He goes, no, I want to treat you both the same. I'm not going to change anything. He wants his. I'm going to give you yours. You can see the nature of this dad really trying to parent the best that he can. And not many days later, and I think this is the hardest part as a parent, not many days later, the younger son gathered everything together and went on a journey into a distant country. Listen to me, parents. Can you imagine how hard it was to be in the same house with a son who's already told you he's leaving and won't be back? It is hard. The time in between asking for it and walking out on it is killer. There's men and women within the sound of my voice, your children, they come and they're there and you know they're not listening to anything that you have to say and they're about to leave you and it's breaking your heart. It breaks your heart to get up every morning and see them and wish that they had changed their mind. And yet there they are. And the day's coming, and you walk and go, listen, don't leave, just stay. Nope, I'm out of here. And they argue with you, and you're begging them. This, to me, was probably the hardest few days of that dad's life because he doesn't know what he did wrong. You may be sitting here this morning going, I don't know what I did wrong. He raised both these boys the same way. He gave them everything that they can. Listen to what I'm about to tell you this morning about parenting. This is our introduction. There are no guarantees. He said, we'll train up a child in the way to go. When he's old, he will not depart from him. We'll get to that. There are men and women within the sound of my voice going to watch this week. You did every single thing that you possibly could, and your son or daughter still became addicted. You raised them in a Christian home, and yet they don't believe. In some ways, sometimes you went overkill and ran them away. There's no guarantees. When you have that baby placed in your arms, there's nothing but hope and love in that day and fear. I remember when Memphis was born, they went back and Mandy was having some complications and Memphis was born. We tell this story and it just blew my mind. Memphis was born and there he was, and the doctors, in that moment, they're rubbing him down, taking his pulse, doing all the things, and then they wrapped him up like a burrito, put his little hat on him, his eyes, put that little stuff on their eyes. He said, come here, Dad, and I'm in a gown. I said, here, we're going to take care of Mom. I said, okay, and I'm standing in the operating room. And they said, just walk back down to your room. This is literally, I walked out of the operating room with a 10-minute-old boy, walked past the lady at the front desk and to our room and sat down in the chair and thought, oh my gosh. I broke every security protocol. I could have been sitting at Wendy's by the time Mandy got to the room. Me and Memphis out of there. Somebody messed up, but they were like, just take him back to the room. So we were sitting there. And I'm telling you, there's hope. There's all kinds of things when you have that baby in your arms, but there's also fear. And some of you have lived in these not many days later. You've been in the house when it was tense. You knew the big fight was coming. You knew that they were leaving. You pleaded and you begged. You asked, and yet they're gone. He gathered his stuff and then he went away and he squandered it, his estate, with loose living. I don't think he headed out of that house to go get crazy and lose all of his money in loose living. I really think that man was so enamored by the success of his dad, he thought he could do it too, but he had no boundaries. Listen to me, can I tell you something? Don't get crazy when your kids get out from underneath your roof and they do stuff that you're not proud of. It's a natural phenomenon. Every one of us in here have stories. Every single one of us. That the day you moved out or when your parents weren't looking, you did stuff that's not your best day. You know what I'm talking about? And most people my age say things like this, boy, I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was growing up. We couldn't run for office. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do that. It's natural. The problem is this governor that this boy was raised under never kicked on, and so he lost his way to loose living. Now, when he had spent everything, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to be impoverished. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country. Check this out. Now, you're not going to like this, parents, but pay close attention. Sometimes when your children hit rock bottom, when your children are going through the worst part of their life, it won't be you that they turn to first. You're going to want them to. You're going to tell them, call me if you need me. And you're going to think that's what's going to happen. But listen to me, sometimes in our children's just dysfunction and disaster at the moment, they will not call you first. God raised up a citizen in the country that the young man was in. God may raise up friends or family members or someone around your son or daughter that can speak to them in ways that you can't in the current condition that they're in. And you have to be careful with that, because what will happen as a parent who's concerned about their son or daughter, that person becomes my enemy. Because I'm jealous they're talking to them and not me, what I do. It's a crazy phenomenon that when a child has messed up, they often run from their parents first. They hide in the curtains when they're little. They hide behind the couch. They go to their room. They pull back. They close their eyes because there's a certain amount of embarrassment. And in the goodness of God, He raises up people sometimes that can speak to them when we can't. But that first part of healing, don't let that person turn into an enemy. If they're doing right, don't let them turn into an enemy, because what God does is He uses citizens of the other country of your child's life to turn them right back to you. Watch what happens. And He sent him to his fields to feed him. The guy said, hey, can you help me? And the guy says, yeah, I'll help you. I can put you to work. I just need some money, man. I'm down on my luck. That's no problem. Get out in that field and work. So he went out and worked, and look what happened. As he was eating, he was watching that the pigs were eating, and he said, I would love to eat that, and no one was giving him anything. He hits immediate rock bottom. This is where a mom's heart breaks. When your son or daughter's living in their car, when they're divorced and running, when they're drinking themselves to death, they hit rock bottom. But when he came to his senses, are you paying attention? This right here is huge. You need to be taking notes. As a parent, there is nothing more frustrating than arguing with someone that's not listening. Can I tell you all something? Pay close attention to me. Sometimes when our sons and daughters, and sometimes our moms and dads, maybe it's the child, maybe it's the different way. But there are moments as parents, especially as your children get older, when who you see in front of you and who you're talking to is not actually who you know them to be. You're arguing with someone who looks like your son or daughter, who talks like your son or daughter, but doesn't reason like your son or daughter. You're going to say things like this: have you lost your mind? We didn't raise you like this. What is wrong with you? Why are you so angry? When did you get a mouth on you like that? What are you doing? And here's what you must understand as a parent. There are times that it's possible that what you recognize as your son and daughter in that moment is not them, or a mom or dad or a husband and wife. Jesus talks about this very same phenomenon about the man in the tombs who was addicted, and Jesus cast out the demon and says when he was back in his right mind. When you get so far out, it's possible that you're trying to reason with someone who is not themselves. And it's going to break your heart. They're going to say mean and ugly things to you. Mom, Dad, let me talk to you for just a second. There's some of us in here that your son or daughter got way off track and they said some things that have hurt you so bad. You see, the pain of a parent is a quiet pain. Your children don't know that yet till they become parents of older kids. Your friends don't know it because you certainly wouldn't tell them how bad it is. No one wants to walk in a room and they ask how Junior is and you say, I haven't talked to him. I never see him. I hear my grandbabies are okay. No one understands the quiet pain of a parent who's doing their best, and yet the child has lost their mind. But it's there. And they say things and do things, and I want to say this to you this morning. It's not them. And there's a chance that over time they come back to their senses, just like this young man did. But when the lights come on, watch what happens. The first thought when this boy was in his right mind was he said, how many of my father's hired men? The first thing when the fog cleared, when the moment of truth arrived, when the rock bottom, as he hits ground, his hired friend has done the best that he can. When the lights finally come on, he says, my dad. Listen to me. I want you to hear what I'm about to say. When you're dealing with your children, or if it's flipped, children with adults, because there's adult parents that don't get it and they're not playing, you're absent. I had a friend tell me one time that they know parents that are now grandparents that steal pictures off of their social media and post them as if they were there so that they can just get the clout with their friends and they've never showed up. I can't imagine the audacity. I can't imagine the lack of love, but it happens. And so you may be a child, an adult child, dealing with absent parents, but listen to me. Write this down. Whether it's your children, it's friend, whoever it is, refuse to let their behavior change your behavior. What we want to be able to do, and God teaches us this, is when the wheels finally are all the way off, God, I pray that I would be the type of dad that when my boys wake up or my daughter wakes up from whatever's taken their mind, that they say, I need my dad. Oh, up till then, it may be shredded and hurt and everything else, but when the lights finally come on, may we be the person that they think I need to get back to. You see, when they're out of their mind, it will cause you to become somebody you're not too. It would have been easy for this father to stand on that front porch and say, boy, you don't know what you're asking for. You're messed up. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for me. You can't make it on your own. You'll always fail. You're just like your mother's side of the family, hard-headed. Nobody, okay, I'll give you, you want half, I'll give you half. Here's half, but I'll tell you right now, when you take that money and you step off my front porch, don't you ever show back up here. You say, why do you say it like that? Because some of us in here have either heard those words or said them. Years down the road, after the anger dissipates, after rock bottom is hit, you wonder why they never call you. They did wrong. Do they know what they did? Oh, sure, they did wrong, but here's what happened. In an instant, both people lost their minds. In an instant, words were said that can never be overcome. And in an instant, when the senses came back on, they said, I can't go back home. He don't want me back home. He told me to never come back. Well, I'll never go back. But this man, this father, he did it the right way, somehow, some way, and I don't know how he did. I think he went and sat on the porch every morning. But either way, here's what happened. When the boys' lights kicked on, he said, I got to go see my dad. And there was something good in this boy because he said, I'm going to go back and see my dad and I'm going to apologize to him. But when I apologize to him, I'm going to tell him I'm not even worthy enough to be your son. He knew his dad was a good man. And he said, I want to go back. He'll feed me at least. And I'll go work with the slaves and I'll go do what they do. He doesn't even have to come and greet me. He doesn't even have to treat me like a son anymore. I ain't even worthy to be his son. I've done so much bad. I have so much respect for my dad. There's no way he'd want to be associated with me, but at least he'll put me up and I got a bed and he'll feed me. At least I know he's such a good man. Even though I've done this, I know he'll do that. Let me go ask him. You're talking about a father and a mother. Mother was there too. You say, how do you know the mother? Because I'm telling you right now, if the mother was not like the father, she would have been in his ear going, don't you let that boy come back down here. If the father had been like some folks, here's what he'd have met him in the middle of the road and said, don't you come back in here. Do you know what you've put your mother through? So he went. And he said what he was going to say to him. And so he got up and he came to his father. And the Bible says that while he was still a long way off, the father saw him and felt compassion for him. Jesus teaches us something about parents. About being a father and a mother right here. There's an overwhelming feeling of love that you can't ever get over. I'm telling you, you don't have to like my children, but I love them deeply. I'll fight for them intently. And I'm telling you right now, they can make me madder than anything on this planet. Especially when they don't listen to me. But there's nothing that drives me to feel compassion like my kids. My wife, yes, but my children. And this father, when he saw his son coming, and this, guys, I'm just telling you, you don't have to like it. I'm just telling you, you don't have to like it. But some of us have been the father on the front porch or the mother on the front porch or the son or daughter on the front porch waiting on the mom, dad, son, daughter to return. And when we saw them coming, we didn't feel compassion. You see, some people, if they were the father and saw their son returning, they'd have said, I knew you'd be back. Couldn't do it, could you? Where you been? Oh yeah, I heard about it. Such an embarrassment. Now you ain't got nothing. Your brother's been working every day out there. Are you just going to come back? You know what you put your mom through? Son, we ain't ready for this. You know what? You need to go get yourself together. And then maybe we'll talk about what's next. But don't just roll up at this house after you've done all that you've done thinking that you can just come in and live out in a barn or wherever. We're not doing that. You need to go on. And some of us would in here in our best southern vocabulary would say, it's tough love, Phillip. It's tough love. It's right. That's a good definition of that. But you don't find it in the Bible. Well, sometimes that's what you... Listen to me. I hear what you're saying, but you don't find it in the Bible. Are we adding it? And just tell me where we're going to add it. I'm not the best parent, but just tell me. Well, you think we ought to just let them walk in after they've done everything they've done? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that God said there was something that happened inside that dad that was bigger than the words and the up and comings that we want to give them. And here's what it's called: compassion. We've raised hard individuals that are soft at the same time. A strong man, a strong woman can hold healthy boundaries and be compassionate at the same time. A weak man is a hard man. You show me a hard man with hard words, hard tones, he's weak. And more than likely he was beat down by the generation before him. And yet that's what we find. And Jesus shows us that as a father, here's what he does. Now, Jesus shows us what this father did. The son was pushing back, going, no, I don't need all this. No, I'm not worthy. Dad, I messed up. And the dad's hugging him and he's kissing him. He missed him. He says, I ain't even worthy to be your son. And he goes, no. Hey, y'all go get the best robe, the best ring, put it on him. And then they killed the fatted calf. Let me make quick work of this because I stayed in here too long. The older son who didn't leave, he was the good boy. He's been out working, he's sweating, he starts walking back in. He comes up over the ridge and he sees down at the house that the bass is thumping. I imagine. People out dancing. People have ridden their camels over. There's camels everywhere. He's coming home from work. He gets the slave that's with him and he says, what's going on at home? He says, you haven't heard? And he goes, no, I haven't heard. He says, your little brother's come home and your dad's killed the fatted calf. We're celebrating. It's a party tonight. He says, excuse me? The older brother comes in, and here's what the older brother does is he stands outside, will not go in because he's mad at his dad and he's mad at his little brother. And rightfully so. He saw how hurt his mom and dad were. He's the guardian, but he's mad. You know what his problem is? Are you ready for this? It's jealousy. And he's going to say things like this: you've always loved him more, Dad. And his dad's going to go, what are you talking about? You've always loved him more. I've been out in this field every day. I've never left you. I make your coffee every day. We walk to work every day. I've heard you talk about Junior and how bad he's hurt you, and I've never done that to you. In fact, you gave me what was mine, and I've set it back in your bank account, and I don't know what's going on. What do I have to do to get you to recognize me? And he looks at him and he says, you've always been with me. But the jealousy inside of the older son, listen to me, Mom and Dad. That same jealousy, that same spirit can fall inside of your living room where your children become jealous of one another. It's amazing to me. Have you ever noticed this? Unless you really work at it, families can grow up where the brothers and sisters never even get together or talk or check on each other. There's people within the sound of my voice this morning. I'm not pointing at you. I'm just saying, you've got brothers and sisters, same blood, same DNA in your bones right now. It's in theirs, and you all do not speak. Families are messy. You say, well, Phillip, you don't know what they did. I don't. I really don't. And I got to be honest with you, there's been seasons that me and my brother didn't speak. In fact, there were seasons that the very sight of him made me sick. And the same for him with me. There's been moments that I've caused my mama so much pain because we were going to do Christmas, and I say, who's coming? And she'd say, and I go, well, I'm not coming then. And at the end of the day, that same spirit that Satan releases, whether it's jealousy or anger or whatever towards one or another, it lives inside of there. And we're trying to parent these different personalities, and we're trying to parent these different individuals. And what we do next is very important. We finish with this particular story, and the dad's on the front porch pleading with his son. And he says, I'm just wanting to celebrate the fact that your younger brother was lost, but now he's found, and now he is back home. Families are messy. In this series, we're going to talk about these different issues that pop up. And you know what I know right now is just from the very story that I just told, it struck a chord with different people. Young, old, whatever. Brother, sister, moms, dad, step parents. And Jesus is really emphatic about how we parent. Much has been said about parenting, actually. Can I show you some of those things? Y'all good? Everybody good? Good. I don't give much time for you to answer. It's been said about parenting is it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. The problem with that, Frederick Douglass was right, but the problem with that is normally we don't realize that till after we've broke them and we're older. And the weight of this conversation that we're having is there's moms and dads and people that are sitting in here that live with the regret of what you did in your child's formative years, and now you're trying to work your way back in. But they're like the older son, and they're going, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. There's no compassion. And that's what Frederick Douglass meant, is it's hard to repair broken men. There's broken men in here that have been married. You're married to a broken man, and you're asking him to be a husband and a father to your children and a husband to you, even though his only example of that about killed him. He ain't got a clue. And he's trying. Now you're frustrated with him. And he's drawn from a well that's empty because he's never seen it. There's women within the sound of my voice in here. You've been broken by the way mom or dad spoke to you. He's asking you to be different because he saw his mom in the way she loved her husband, his dad, and you can't do it. You're fearful. It's hard to repair those things. It's possible, it's just hard. I love this. Don't worry that your children never listen to you. Worry that they're always watching you. Robert Fulghum said a mouthful. How many of us have said kids aren't listening? But they're always watching. I have a real bad tendency. My wife will tell you this. PJ will tell you this. You could be talking to me and me not looking at you. But I am self-diagnosed with ADD. I had ADD when it wasn't cool. That's why I wasn't diagnosed. When I was a kid, they didn't give you medicine for ADD. They gave you whoopings. They say, what's wrong with that boy? He's got a little too much energy. Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, whoop it out of him. I've had whole cans of ravioli thrown at me as I ran for the door. Yeah, Chef Boyardee and me were close. That's true. That's a real thing. But the problem with that is I've never grown out of it, and it's still a problem for me. And so sometimes when you're trying to talk to me, I get distracted. That's why a lot of times if you talk to me after church, I'm going to look you dead in the eye and try to hold it because I get distracted. But one thing that they'll also tell you is just because I'm not looking at you doesn't mean I'm not listening. I'm listening. Now listen to me, moms and dad. Your children are watching everything you do. And as they grow, they remember. My children can't tell you everywhere we've been on vacation, but they could tell you about the day their dad walked into their bedroom at age about 4, stepped on a water gun that they left out while they were wrestling when they should have been asleep, living in bunk beds like the 7 dwarfs. I picked the water gun up and said, "You've got to go to bed." I beat the living mess out of that water gun. Plastic went everywhere. The bunk bed shot off splinters into the wilderness. The boys looked at me like this. And when I left, I slammed the door for good measure. I never think about that story. But if you get to talking about me with my boys, they always tell it. Why? because it wasn't important to me, but they were always watching. Some of us think that they're not watching, and it's going to come back to haunt you one day. Billy Graham said, a child who is allowed to be disrespectful to his parents will never have true respect for anyone else. And that's the truth. Sometimes you bump into parents that are trying these new formulas for parenting kids. And they'll fuss at them and point at them and talk to them a certain way. You know what I'm talking about. You get back to your car or you sit down with somebody, you go, if that was my kid, I'd wear him out. You ever said something like that? You say, if you give me that boy about 15 minutes, he'll never talk to her like that again. You ever done that? And then when it's real bad, you walk out to your car and you go like this, shame on that parent, right? But here's what we know is that kid that's disrespectful at home to their parents and in public, that takes a whole new level. You know? So I don't know what to do if they're disrespectful. You do what the rest of us have done. You close your teeth like this and say, I'll kill you if you don't stop. That's what you do. I'll be on Dateline if you don't stop. Yeah. They might tell on me. They might call whoever. Tell them, call them. I'll send you with them for 3 days. They can bring you back. Each day we make deposits in the memory banks of our children, Charles Swindoll said. But Jesus said it this way, and he said this about parenting. Behold, children are the gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Jesus calls our children a gift and a reward. Jesus goes on to say this, as he says, there it is, like arrows in the hands of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Children, like arrows, go where you aim them. And if you have an arrow and you point it in a certain direction, that's where it goes. When you release it, that's where it's headed. And God tells us that as parents, we are aiming our children. Guys, listen to me. It's not just the words. It's not just the opportunity that aims them. It's your behavior. It's your compassion. It's your love. It's your discipline. It's everything that changes the direction of your children. Interesting thing about arrows, and I don't know if you've ever used an arrow, but if you take that arrow shaft, if you dent it or break it or do anything to hurt it or mess with the feathers on it or the knot or whatever, here's what can happen is it will not shoot straight. And these things that are going on in our home, yes, they are your arrows. They are your children. You're saying, I'm going to set them straight. Here's the problem. You're doing damage at home that when you release them, they're going to fly every which direction but straight because of what went on inside that house. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate. Their children will ultimately be your legacy leaver. One of the things that God tells us too is your children end up becoming your greatest protectors. They fight for you. I told them in the first service, part of my children, they love me, I think. They don't always agree with me, but I'll tell you this right now. If my children, they're here, if at the end of the service somebody came down front and grabbed a hold of me and really wanted to get with me, and if my boys are standing around there hearing what's being said to their dad, and somebody starts getting after their dad, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen is all of a sudden you're going to have 3 almost 22-year-old men full of testosterone saying, I wish a man would. That's my dad. He may not be perfect, but we'll handle this. And the next thing you're going to know is my boys will get in between me and you, and it's going to be like junkyard. But they're good Christian boys. They are. But I'm telling you, they love their dad. And you want to see them really bad, do something to their mama. But that's what the Bible says that your children will do. But let me tell you something. Them boys aren't the scariest part of what I have at my house. The scariest part of what I have at my house is about 5'2", with a long ponytail that will step up and she'll never touch you, but she'll cut you with every word and she'll say, that's my dad. And she'll do those eyes and she'll cut you and leave you laying for her daddy and then go, I'm hungry, let's go eat. That's what she'll do. She loves her dad. She loves it. And that's what the Bible says, is that you raise these children in such a way that not only do they respect you and they love you, they become your greatest defenders. And in fact, if you do it right, they'll be the last people to feed you. But the Bible teaches us something else about it that is hard. But you say, Phillip, what makes it so hard? Check this out. This is our introduction. I just got a few more minutes, and then we're going to jump into the deep stuff next week. 48% of parents of children under 18 feel completely overwhelmed by stress compared to other adults. So if you have children under 18, 48% of you feel completely overwhelmed. And here's what happens. Here's how you know they don't have to deal with what we have to deal with. That's 48% of half of us that have children under 18. 97% of parents admit to feeling stressed about parenting over any given month, meaning this, that any given month, yes, 97% of us feel stressed. You have to get them to the dentist, you have to take off work, you have to provide this, you have to buy braces, you have to do whatever. It's stressful every month. It's never let up. 71% of parents of young children report feeling emotionally distressed, including anxiety and loneliness, meaning that 7 out of 10 parents of young children feel anxiety, loneliness, and emotionally just broken. You say, do you think that's true? I completely think that's true. I think it might even be higher than that. And I think that's exactly why a lot of my young adult mamas and daddies are in here that are going through what they're going through raising kids, didn't know what they were signing up for, but their anxiety, their loneliness, their financial stuff has got them medicated. And so we see antidepressants on the rise because of this daily grind that we do as parents, and we see self-medicating at home. You can't imagine how many young men that I know who are fathers who have young children that battle. Listen to me, you're not going to like me saying it, but it's true. Because you fall in this category and you don't know what to do, you self-medicate with alcohol at home. You drink too much, sir. You do. You rolled in here this morning. I'm not bagging on drinking. Don't hear me say you can't drink. What I'm saying is you drink too much, you self-medicate. She's trying to give them a bath and you're down number 18. You know what I'm talking about. It's real life. And ma'am, it really, you go, I don't know, he don't love us. He does. He's just as stressed as anybody else. The problem is he's been raised in the South and he goes, no, I ain't stressed. I'm good. I'm good. Beer me. I'm good. What's going to happen to these 71%? I'm just telling you, a good 25% of those, and I see it every day, 25% of those, the marriage is going to fail. And by the time that those children are 7, 8, 9, 10, they're going to be living in 2 houses, mom and dad's. 62% of parents of children feel that parenting is at least somewhat harder than they expected. 62% said, yeah, it's a lot harder than I expected. I think the other 38% are liars. Either they interviewed men and their wives weren't around or something. No, it's exactly what we thought. We knew they would set the microwave on fire and shave the cat. We knew that was coming. No, you didn't. 38% of parents experience parental burnout. Come on, JT. Sometimes parents will sit with me and they'll go, I hate to even say this out loud. And I go, you can tell me anything, I'm not allowed to share it. And they'll say, do you ever just get tired of your children? And I go, no, why? I do, is what they'll say. It just feels so bad. I know they're a blessing, I just get tired of them. Listen, you're going to get tired sometimes. Being a parent is a battle. It'll burn you out. It's not that you don't love them. It's just like, I need a break. And sometimes we won't let ourselves have a break. They said, Phillip, how do you get a break? I give them all their keys and Venmo them and say, go eat dinner. Bye. And on days that they won't do that, I go shut my bedroom door and go, leave me alone. I become a hostage of my own house. But it happens. There's parents that sound of my voice this morning, you're just over it. 75% of parents financially support at least one of their children over the age of 18. Did you just see that? So some of y'all that think if you can just get them raised, wrong-o. 35% of adults face emotional stress from funding their adult children. 35%. Almost 4 out of 10 adults in here. You're stressed out because you're funding your adult children. And it's happened more often because here's the conversations we're having amongst ourselves as our children are aging. We're saying things like this. If you'll listen, here's what we're saying. I don't know how they're going to afford it. It's not the same as when we were growing up. They can't afford these houses. Guess what happened? It just doubled back on me. 18% of young adults aged 25 to 34 still live with their parents. I don't know what that's all about. Some of it's financial, some of it ain't. Some of it has to do with maturity. Y'all don't want to hear me say that, but it's true. 23% of adults are taking care of their parents, 65 or older, while parenting a child. 40% of adult children feel their parents cross boundaries with their opinions. 33% of parents of adult children feel ignored when it comes to advice that they give their children. There's some adult parents in here go, we've been trying to tell them, but they ignore us. There's adult children, 40% of us in here go, my parents don't know a boundary. They're always butting in. We're adults. 50% of adult children talk to their parents daily, which creates closeness, but also creates stress. Isn't that weird? Did you talk to your mom today? Yes, I bet you did. You know what I mean? There's many reasons that parenting is hard. Sleeplessness. The stat is it takes you 6 years to regain the sleep that you lose when you have a baby. Constant worry. Can I tell you something to my young parents? If you think you worry about them now, if you think dropping them off at child care and doing all that stuff makes you worry now, you just wait. I thought I'd get to a place where I didn't have to worry. Me and Mandy could just go on vacation and not worry about it. I worry all the time. I worry about my kids' future. I worry about my children. Mandy, we were talking to Mahala. She was going to do something by herself the other day in Knoxville. And Mandy said on the phone, she goes, if you see anything touching your car or tied to your car when you come out, you get back in that store and call us. I say things like this, call me when you go in and call me when you come out. Call me when you get there. What's that about? I worry. Feeling of failure, many times I don't know if I'm doing good or not. I have no idea. And really, quite frankly, as a parent, you don't know if what you're doing as a parent is good or not. It'll come out in a wash later. It's a faith drive. Somebody said the reason we feel like failures is because it means that you're a good parent. You're trying hard. Priorities. Your priorities get out of line, and we live, guys, listen to me. I'm going to say a lot of things that are not popular because, listen, you may not like this. I told a buddy of mine, I'm just 47, and I know I'm young to a lot of people in here. I'm old to a lot of people in here, but a lot of my mindset, I feel like a dinosaur. Our world has taken off on this trajectory where you can't have 10 minutes of downtime. You can't. You can't have a fall break and not travel. You can't do, thousands of dollars. You have to do $1,000 on Christmas. You have to go on spring break vacation. You have to play multiple sports. You have to be in travel this. You can't say no to a middle school coach. You can't do any of that. And so what they've done is this world has amped up so hard that you live in fear that it's going to cost your children, that you are running yourself ragged, and we're so afraid to change our priorities. And for me, I was raised by different people and I haven't gotten it right, but I don't stress as much about that because I just go, no, I ain't doing that. I don't want to do that, But your priorities get shifted. Your finances, the risk of decision, fear of missing out. So many people, we sign our kids up or ourselves up for everything because we're just so afraid of missing out. Lack of example. Listen to me. If you don't know how to parent because of your parents, here's what's going to happen. You're going to repeat behavior. There's going to be men and women with the sound of my voice. The whole time you said you'd never be like your parents because you never found the right example to be like. And the whole time you say you're not going to become them, you're going to become them. And so you repeat behavior. Some, on the other hand, have gone the other way to overcorrectedness. They begin to correct everything that they saw their parents did in an overcorrectedness, and they make it worse on the other side. But it's simply because they don't have an example. They don't know how to split the difference. Keeping up with others. If I don't have an example, I'll find somebody and mimic their example. TikTok will show me how to be a parent. Behavioral issues cause stress. Fear of disappointments cause stress. Lack of support and help cause stress. Too many voices cause stress. Parenting older children causes stress. You should be vacationing. You should be retiring. And yet here you are raising your grandchildren and trying to parent your older children, and it's killing you. Privately, you go, I don't know what we did wrong, man. I don't know. Marriage or divorce. The in-laws, they'll cause stress. You take two people raised two different ways, with two different priorities, two different expectations, two different convictions, two different disciplinary actions, and put them together. I promise you right now, somebody's going to fight before it's over with. Somebody's going to say, you've been too hard on that boy, and the other one's going to say, you're not being hard enough. Somebody's going to say, give me a hug, and the other one's going, we don't really touch in our family. And it's going to mess everything up. Unrealistic expectations. And yet Jesus said this, that we as parents, and I'm about finished, I'm going to give this to you, and then next week we're going to jump down in the well and just get down in there. Train up a child in the way it should go, and even when he is old, it will not depart from it. And I want you to hear what I'm about to tell you. These words right here, and I'm about to give you just a list of things on the way out, and we're done. Many times we use Proverbs 22:6 to talk about training up children in fear of the Lord, and it's true. It won't depart from you. Give them Jesus now. That's why we're building a school. But listen to what I'm telling you. It's not just the good things that you put in that they'll not depart from. It's the bad things too. There's a reason that people come along in our life later and they'll go, you're just like your daddy. She's just like her mama. Could never keep her at home. He's just like, he comes from a long line of spenders. You see, what you put in your children now will never depart from them. It's always there. I've not spoken to my biological father in, 20 years. And yet I still have snapshots of words that were said to me. I still have tendencies I have to fight that come from him. People, listen to me. If we're not training our children the correct way, and just because everybody else tells you that's right doesn't mean it's right, but if we're not training them the right way, what you deposit in them will not depart from them. And I'm telling you right now, you don't want to hear this, but some of us right now are hamstringing our very grandkids by how we're treating our own kids. You know what I'm talking about. Some of you are just the same way. You have never gotten over what your mom and dad did to you. You're a parent now. You look past what you're doing, but you still remember what they did to you, and your children will do the same. So what do we not want to do? Here it is, and we're done. Constant criticism and fault finding. It's easy to shut a child down. All you have to do is just find fault in everything. Nothing is ever going to be enough. You end up with an adult with a broken spirit. I just want them to be good. No, you're critical. You're constantly criticizing them. You're going to shut that kid down. You wonder why they don't talk to you? Because they can't ever say anything right, so they just stop. The inability to listen. Isolation isn't just in closed rooms. It comes by the loneliness of the parent's closed mind. Not too long ago, I was talking to one of my sons, and my son said, you're not listening to me. I said, no, you're not listening to me. He goes, no, you're not listening. The truth of the matter was, after we talked it out, is I was listening, but in the moment he felt like I wasn't because I wasn't listening to what he had to say, and he felt isolated by himself to figure something out. And I'm just telling you right now, you wonder why some of our kids are lonely, why things are going on, is because they don't feel like parents listen. Sometimes as parents, we feel like we have to come to the conversation with the answers, when really we just need to come to the conversation with a set of ears. The inability to see that they are trying. A child that is trying is worth being praised, even when the trying doesn't always meet the desired ends. Sometimes we felt like we had to jump through the hoops to earn the love. And even when we're trying, it's not met with acknowledgement. And all of a sudden, it changes us. Their confidence found in your acknowledgement. Their give-up attitude will be found in your lack of acknowledgement. Listen to me. We marry these types of people if we're not careful. They were trying, Mom. They were trying, Dad. They didn't get it all right. They made a lot of mistakes. They were trying to feed the dog, but they poured water in the floor, and all you did was fuss at them about pouring water in the floor, but they were trying to feed the dog, and guess what happens? It broke him. You go, don't you start crying. Get you a rag. Get in here. Clean this up. We're not crying in this house. Clean this up. But all he's trying to do was help. Next thing you know, you've created a man who has no confidence. He marries a young lady who has a lot of confidence, and she gets frustrated with him because he never thinks he's good enough. Cutting tones, ruthless words, and constant yelling. I'm telling you right now, I want you to hear this. Words, tones, and yelling may get quick results. But in the long term, you will lose your child and you will break your grandchildren. There's some of us, our tendency is words, tones. I didn't mean nothing by it. It's the way you said it, Dad. Yelling. You get in here right now. Constant. And you can get them jumping and doing and whatever. You can say words. But what you don't know, sir, oh man. You're going to have a little boy walk up to you one day when you're sitting in your house as an old man with a gray beard, and he's going to roll up to you, and you're going to see that little dude, and he reminds you of your son when he was just little like that too, and he thinks you're the greatest thing in the world, and he calls you Papa. And he rolls up, and he walks through that front door, and he's got those big old eyes, and he's got tears in his eyes. You go, what's wrong with you, boy? What happened? And what you don't realize is what you started in the living room 25 years ago has just filtered down through the same one who heard every tone, every cutting word, every yelling, and he got his face ripped to his papa's house, and he is broken. And in that moment, it'll change your life. It wasn't the words of your son that broke your grandson. It was your words 20 years ago. Unfair discipline. Discipline is good, but unfair discipline is sick. There's kids that I know that are grounded longer than men that get charged with misdemeanor. Well, we're just trying to fix it. Okay. Your discipline isn't building them up, it's bearing them. And your legacy, sir, ma'am, is going to be cruel. Some of you haven't lived long enough to hear somebody talk about their parents say they were too hard on me. They were cruel to me. And you're just throwing on put your thumb on them. Kill them. Lack of discipline, feral kids will turn into wild adults. And listen to me, without healthy boundaries and healthy consequences to issues, someone in their life will meet them and show them those consequences. Helicopter instincts. Your instincts to protect or correct, your constant oversight will stunt the growth needed for tomorrow. Children have to prepare for your leaving them while you're still here. Favoritism towards one over the other. Loving more is unacceptable. One of them more is unacceptable. Loving different is needed. Find your children's love language and speak it. I don't love my children more than the other, but I do love them different. My boys would be highly offended if I loved them or showed them love the way I show my daughter. If I was chasing Maverick on his lawnmower and said, come out here and give Daddy a hug, he'd say, he's lost his mind, I'm going away. You know? If I walked up to my daughter and said, good game, pow! She'd say, what is wrong with you? You have to love different. Neglect. Neglect like love is a choice. And I'm telling you, there's some children that get neglected. And the last one is this, competing parents. In either marriage or divorce, parents that compete with each other for their children's love will create a ripple effect of pain that takes years to realize and often generations to overcome. A lot of times in broken relationships or even in a marriage, children become weaponized because one parent competes with the other one, or a divorced parent competes with the other one. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you, if you're an outsider looking in, be real careful if you get caught up in that conversation, because sides will be drawn. And I'm just telling you, when parents compete with each other over junior or sister or whatever it is, it will take generations to correct that, because those children will grow up and do the same thing to their kids, and it sets off a ripple effect that goes generations. But here's the deal this morning. That's the introduction. And over the next several weeks, we're going to go through this series, and we're going to talk about older parents. We're going to talk about forgiving mom and dad. We're going to talk about raising young children. We're going to talk about communication. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. But this morning, here's what I want you to know, is if you're blessed enough to be called a parent, God has blessed you with a reward and a gift, and He needs you to show the love that He has shown you to those children and change the future. And here's what I also know. When I talk about parenting, you start thinking about the job. But here's what I really know, is there's mom and dads that are sitting in here, husbands and wives that are sitting here, older people that are sitting in here. Because of the way you're parented, you carry scars for years and years and years. And if you're not careful, it will dictate how you live the rest of your life. We're going to unpack that over the next several weeks as well. Jesus, I love you. I thank you this morning for your word. I thank you for the opportunity to study, and I pray that you would make us the parents that you desire us to be. God, I pray that we would have the wisdom to make decisions today that will benefit our children long after we're gone and our children's children. God, when we get caught up in the moment of today, we miss out on what really matters in the future. I pray for my friends that are here that are struggling through parenting. I pray that over the next few weeks they'll find healing and wisdom. I pray for my friends that are here who have been hurt by their parents. I pray to find healing. I pray for the children that are here that they would find parents that love you but are doing their best. God, I pray for the relationships and the messy families. I pray that you would bring about reconciliation and help. But in all things, I pray that we would love you more and glorify you in all that we say and we do. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand, let's sing for a moment of invitation.